Bradley Wiggins was nothing short of a trailblazer for British cycling. He was not only the first British rider to win the Tour de France, but he marked the beginning of a new dynasty of British dominance in the world of cycling, from Tour de France wins to a Team Sky generation that came to dominate Grand Tours in the decade to follow. In a career spanning decades himself, Bradley Wiggins' story is truly unique, a journey from Olympic gold medals on the track to cycling's most prized jersey. So today, we chart the rise and fall of Bradley Wiggins.
Please mind the gap between the train and the platform.
It's difficult to know where to start with Bradley Wiggins. Born in 1980 in Ghent, Belgium, Wiggins was born into the sport, as his father, Gary Wiggins, was embedded in the Belgian track scene. However, his father Gary left the family when Wiggins was just 2 years old, leaving Bradley and his mother to move to North London, where Wiggins would grow up. With a bitter taste, it took Wiggins some time to discover the sport in more depth. This came when he was 12 years old at the 1992 Olympic Games, when British rider Chris Boardman took the individual pursuit gold medal. After this, Wiggins developed a deep fascination with cycling. This obsession was backed up by genuine talent as he made his way up the ranks in the London cycling scene. Making the move onto the national level, Wiggins was garnering attention, first as a track rider. Catching headlines with a junior world title in 1998, Wiggins was touted for big things. After successful performances among the seniors in the late 1990s, Wiggins proved his worth at the 2000 Sydney Olympics with a bronze medal in the team pursuit. With Olympic notoriety and a string of strong youth results, Wiggins found himself on Française des Jeux' road team in 2002. His time with the team wasn't headline-grabbing, but it was meme-worthy at least. Elsewhere, Wiggins took a stage with the 2003 Tour de l'Avenir and signed a new contract with Crédit Agricole for 2004 on this rush of promising youth results. While his road results were taking time to heat up, the track wins kept on coming in the form of a rainbow jersey and an Olympic gold medal in the individual pursuit. The profile was building, but there was a fine balancing act to be done here between the road and the track over the seasons to come. Would he be destined for the velodrome or for the open roads of the Tour de France? In 2007, it felt as though things were changing for Brad, who was entering his late 20s by this point. A prologue win at the Dauphiné marked a first World Tour victory. On this wave of success, Wiggins was selected for the Tour de France, which started in his home city of London. Despite a move to Colombia in 2008, the team, not the country, the track was a key priority, especially with the Beijing Olympics on the agenda. There, Wiggins played his part in the British gold rush on the track. He played a leading role with 2 gold medals in both the team and individual pursuits, backing up his World Championship titles from the years before. After the Olympics, Garmin Slipstream picked up Wiggins in preparation for the 2009 season. There, Wiggins would focus more on the road, leaving behind his rainbow bands of the track. Although Wiggins transitioned more onto the road, he was still seen as a pure time trialist. His track pedigree wasn't translating into GC results. That was until 2009 at the Tour de France. After a strong top 5 performance in the opening time trial of the race, Wiggins set his sights on staying in top 10. The race itself was total chaos. Breakaway riders were fighting for the yellow jersey and the GC was a game of snakes and ladders. Wiggins, though, hung on throughout the chaos.
You know what people are like. I mean, you got people saying 9/11 was Americans did it to themselves. So, if people are going to say things like that, of course they're going to say that we're trying to stop George from taking the yellow.
He stayed inside the top 5 of the GC throughout the race. As an unknown general classification package, Wiggins was shocking many. He'd never finished inside the top 50 at a Grand Tour, and now he was steady in the fight for top 5. Although he let the other teams control affairs, Wiggins was still high in the GC once the race came into the final week.
Obviously, if I'm still in the same position, which will be a dream come that time trying Annecy, then, it's jackpot for me.
A strong time trial in Annecy moved him up in the standings, and all he had to do was conserve his 4th place in the final mountain stages to go into British Tour de France history. 4th place at the Tour de France wasn't bad going for Wiggins. His first shot at GC was a convincing one. Wiggins' stock value on the road had increased greatly, and he admits himself to celebrating a little bit too hard in the aftermath of this result. But things were about to change for Wiggins at the end of the 2009 season. After the successes at Beijing 2008 and a boost in British road cycling from Cavendish and Wiggins, British cycling pushed for the creation of a new team, Sky Pro Cycling. Wiggins was the face of the new project, a British World Tour team working towards getting the first British Tour de France win. The team was formed with some big goals, new tactics, and a whole new approach focused on marginal gains. In his debut season with Sky, Wiggins lined up for the Giro in preparation for his grand Tour de France return. The Giro, however, yielded early success with a stage win on day 1 and a day in the pink jersey. Whilst Wiggins completed the Giro, he was nowhere to be seen inside the top 10 of GC, instead finishing in 40th place. Later at the Tour de France in 2010, Wiggins showed no signs of winning that race, nor a stage.
Do you want me to be honest with you, Iffy? I'm mate. I've got nothing. I just don't have the form.
Simple as that, I ain't gonna lie to you.
An existential redrawing at the plan was necessary. The next year in 2011, his focus was more streamlined on winning the Tour de France. There was no need for a Giro. Instead, he would go for the warm-up races at Paris-Nice, Romandie and Dauphiné. In 2011, things were improving. Third place at Paris-Nice, then an overall win at the Dauphiné showed that Wiggins was improving and getting used to being team leader at Sky. To top things off, for his tour preparation, he claimed the British champion's jersey. In an all-new outfit, Wiggins was poised for success at the 2011 Tour. At that race, Wiggins was right up in the GC. After 6 stages, Wiggins was sitting just 10 seconds behind the yellow jersey. However, on stage 7, the Tour dream came crashing down on the roads of northwestern France. Sat on the concrete, Wiggins' race was over after just 1 week of racing. After having recovered from the Tour, Wiggins wanted redemption at the Vuelta. Still on good form following his Tour de France preparation, he hit the ground running in Spain. A strong time trial on stage 10 threw him right into the mix, moving him onto the podium. However, whilst Wiggins looked strong, he was being overshadowed by his younger teammate Chris Froome, who was riding a barnstorming Vuelta, finding himself in the red jersey on stage 10. From here, Sky were in a very comfortable position with dual leadership strategy between Wiggins and Froome. With Froome in the red jersey, Wiggins was hanging on to a podium place, whilst an underdog, Juan Jose Cobo, emerged into the mix in the final week of racing. This was an extraordinary and almost superhuman effort from Spanish rider Juan Jose Cobo, who was just at the professional continental level at this point. A monstrous ride on the Angliru gave Cobo the stage win and the red jersey ahead of this Team Sky duo, with Wiggins now over 1 minute down on the race leader. No matter how much Chris Froome and Bradley Wiggins tested Cobo, the Spaniard was still there. In the end, Wiggins had to settle for 3rd place once the race came into Madrid. Oh, scratch that, 2nd place overall. With the first Grand Tour podium, Wiggins could start to believe the sky truly was the limit. Coming into 2012, some wondered whether Wiggins' time had passed. In an attempt to replicate his form, he opted for the same preparations for the 2012 Tour de France, with Paris-Nice, Romandie and Dauphiné on the schedule. And I mean, he dominated all 3. By gaining an advantage in the time trials and with strong team support in the mountain, Wiggins' methodical style was returning big success. His team was well drilled, as was Wiggins himself, who found his place as a team leader and GC fighter. It felt as though the stars had aligned. Wiggins had squeaky clean form coming into the Tour de France, his team had reimagined stage racing, and with 96 kilometers of individual time trialing on the agenda, the route was perfectly suited for Bradley Wiggins. In Liège, Wiggins kicked off his Tour de France quest on the opening day's prologue around the Wallonian city. Falling short on the day, Wiggins sat 2nd place in GC, just behind Fabian Cancellara, who took the first yellow jersey of the Tour. During a stressful opening week, the team secured a stage win courtesy of good friend Mark Cavendish in Tournai. Wiggins also stayed out of danger while some of his teammates, including Chris Froome, more about him later on, lost precious minutes in the opening week of racing. Regardless, the pressure was still on. Once the race hit the mountains on stage 7, it all changed, and I mean everything changed. For the first time at the Tour de France, we saw the Skytrain, a well-oiled machine used to strangle the opposition. The premise was simple: set the pace high and deter the others from attacking. With this performance, it felt as though we were witnessing another paradigm shift on the slopes of La Planche de Belfi. Team Sky had arrived, and Wiggins took the yellow jersey. Foreboding at that, given how dominant Team Sky would become over the next years, particularly Chris Froome, who had taken his first Tour de France stage win here at La Planche, the first of many to come. In yellow for the first time in his career, Wiggins led the race into the first mountain stages of the Tour. On stage 9, in fact, Wiggins would extend his lead, this time in the individual time trial. At this point, his lead was almost 2 minutes over the reigning champion Cadel Evans, who trailed the British rider. The Tour de France was beginning to feel like a walkover, a victory lap almost. That said, the Alps were to come. However, with the support of the Skytrain, the mountains were sterilized. However, the enemy was almost from within. Froome was distancing his team leader Bradley Wiggins on the way up to La Tour-Suire.
And look at Froome now, who's really hammering it.
He's attacking him.
I even think he may well have been given the nod there by Bradley, but Bradley Wiggins has been left behind by Nibali.
Well, this is now, does Froome know what he's doing with that acceleration? Because he's got Bradley Wiggins on the defensive now, and Nibali has kicked again. This Tour de France just has no leader right now.
After a century of waiting for a British rider to win the Tour de France, 2 had emerged at the same time. Wiggins felt as though Froome went back on his promise of supporting him as team leader. After the team sacrifice all year, their big Wiggins plan to win the Tour was in question. Regardless, Froome moved up into 2nd place overall, whilst Wiggins held on to a commanding lead of the race. A week later, once the race reached the Pyrenees, Wiggins held on in the mountains, even if Froome put pressure on once again up to Peyregoud. With the yellow jersey on his back and a 2-minute time gap to Chris Froome in second place, Wiggins had to negotiate 2 flat stages and an individual time trial before reaching the podium in Paris. Back home, word was getting out and Wigomania was spreading. The Tour de France's viewing figures were increasing and the sense of hope was palpable in the air back in the United Kingdom. With a stage win from Team Sky's Mark Cavendish and Brive-la-Gaillarde on stage 18, momentum was building. Then on to stage 19 in Wiggins' own wheelhouse, the time trial. Throughout the course, Wiggins was smashing the best intermediate times. He'd set the roads alight. The confidence was oozing off Wiggins. He hadn't only done enough to win the Tour de France, he had excelled in that. As he rolled into the finishing line in the old holy city of Chartres, Wiggins was poised to shatter the fastest time and take the stage, extending his GC lead and securing that Tour de France victory. The accumulation of a year's hard work had been exalted in one triumphant punch of the air, peppered with the relief of the tour's conclusion on the Champs-Élysées the following day. There, Wiggins celebrated with his teammates arm in arm on the run into Paris, knowing that at least the GC fight was done and dusted. What they were focusing on instead was securing a dream finale to the race, a stage win with Mark Cavendish on the Champs-Élysées. In one of the most extraordinary moments in recent cycling history, we saw Wiggins leading out, the rainbow jersey of Mark Cavendish on the Champs-Élysées. The Max missile launched again, and in the final dash to the line, Cavendish secured a Hollywood finale to Team Sky and Great Britain's Tour de France. It all felt like a fairy tale for Team Sky and their Tour de France conquest. Wiggins had gone a place that no British rider had ever gone before, at least for 12 months. Less than 1 week after winning the Tour de France, Wigomania had spread like wildfire throughout the United Kingdom. Wiggins took on a lead role at the London 2012 opening ceremony at the Olympic Games before riding the road race the day after on the roads of his home city. For Wiggins, it was all about the individual time trial at the Olympics. On a sunny August day in London, Wiggins flew around the course, cheered on by the local fans. He was the hometown hero, sealing the second British gold medal of the Games after a commanding performance. 2012 was the year of Bradley Wiggins. In a Merxian effort, Wiggins had won Paris-Nice, the Dauphiné, the Tour de France, and an Olympic gold medal on home soil in London. It was a full house of cycling success. Within the space of 12 months, Wiggins had triggered a cycling revolution in the United Kingdom. He had placed the sport on the map. People were wearing sideburns in support, and Wiggo fever had took over. He was a household name, a legend in the UK. How the hell can you follow that up? Once the dust had settled on a superstar 2012, Wiggins focused on his goals for the season to come, with a shot at the Giro in 2013 on the schedule. The preparations for the race would include appearances at some smaller warm-up races. The results there weren't earth-shattering. Wiggins instead caught more headlines for this bike throw than his racing. Regardless, Wiggins came into the 2013 Giro as one of the favourites. Of course, as the reigning Tour de France champion, there were expectations to be had of him. On the opening weekends, things went swimmingly. He was part of the winning Team Time Trial squad on stage 2, and his teammate Salvatore Puccio went into the pink jersey. It wouldn't take long for this high to come crashing down though. A rainy day into Pescara on stage 7 saw Wiggins lose a hefty 1 minute and 30 seconds to the other race favourites. A strong time trial the next day almost redeemed his GC efforts as he moved back into the top 10, however a 3-minute time loss on stage 12 saw Wiggins call it quits on the Giro. With this abandonment, this would be the end of Wiggins' Grand Tour career. For the rest of the year, Wiggins would move on to different goals. A stage win at the Tour of Polonia came his way, whilst an overall win at the Tour of Britain kept up appearances in his home nation. To end the year, Wiggins claimed a silver medal at the World Championship time trial. This wasn't a poor season for most riders, it must be said, but following a dominant 2012, it seemed like his career was taking a plunge. 2014 would salvage something at least, with an overall win at the Tour of California, a top 10 at Paris-Roubaix, and a time trial rainbow jersey when many people started to write him off. This wasn't bad at all, but Wiggins would become the first rider in the 21st century to take a rainbow jersey down to the continental level, when he switched to the self-titled and self-founded Team Wiggins after Paris-Roubaix that year. Here his objectives on the road had changed entirely. Now as a continental rider, he wasn't riding Grand Tours or monuments. Instead, he took to the roads of the United Kingdom on smaller races. These results that he was getting weren't really of a world champion. Wiggins missed a mark at the Tour of Britain and the Tour of Yorkshire. The end of his road career was nigh.
But now, Ed, you're giving up the road racing.
No, look, I'm not giving...
Oh, you're not?
No, I am.
From here, he switched his focus onto rounding out his career where it all began. On the boards, Bradley found himself a new lease of life. He joined forces with old friend Cavendish on the track and claimed a European title. With this newfound success, Wiggins was selected for the Olympics in 2016. There he found gold a 5th and final time. With a ceremonial exit scheduled at the 6 Days of Ghent, Bradley Wiggins bowed out to the sport in his birth city of Ghent with his head held high. Many gold medals, rainbow jerseys, and a Tour de France title behind him, Wiggins hung up his bike. So, what the happened to Bradley Wiggins? Well, he was a man of many talents, we can say that. A track star come road galactico who even turned to rowing after his cycling retirement. The stars aligned for Wiggins in 2012. His team had matured and they perfected an all-new strategy of stage racing. Team Sky was its own phenomenon, and Wiggins was the frontman for this. From Paris to Dauphiné and the Tour, Wiggins dominated 2012 through and through. Ultimately though, the baton was being passed on to Chris Froome by the end of 2012. Wiggins' space in the Tour de France squad after 2012 was very much in doubt. Even at a Grand Tour, Wiggins lost his sparkle after 2012. But when you achieve so much in one year like he did in 2012, where do you go next? For him, a rainbow jersey in Pontferrad and a brief stint in the Classics was enough for him to bow out of the top flight of road racing, then going to support his homegrown, self-titled squad. At this point in the video, it's also important to reiterate the point that Bradley Wiggins was the first cycling celebrity in the UK. He was setting a precedent. He was a household name, in fact. He had fashion lines, he interviewed politicians, featured on talk shows, and he even hosted his own game show. But on top of all of this, Bradley Wiggins was the first cyclist to have wall-to-wall tabloid coverage about himself. The British tabloids were ruthless, cutthroat, and relentless. Wiggins was subject to them even after hanging up his bike in 2016. This wore him down, to the point where nowadays we rarely see him in a cycling environment. His status as a cycling celebrity somewhat overshadowed his sporting achievements, you could say. His name had become an entity far bigger than his Tour de France triumph in 2012. I mean, which other Tour de France winners go on to host game shows alongside comedians? What Wiggins has showed in recent public appearances is a sense of attrition from his time as a pro cyclist.
When I looked back at my career, there was no joy. There was no enjoyment. There was no enjoying the moment, the success. It was like ticking a box. And winning became the normal, winning became the standard.
After a career of 8 cycling medals, countless rainbow jerseys, and a Tour de France title along the way, we're left wondering whether this was all really worth the pain for Bradley Wiggins. Well, that's everything from this rider profile for Bradley Wiggins. You can watch our full series of WTF Happened To, including riders such as Taylor Phinney and Tom de Milan here on the Cycling Daily YouTube channel. Also, you can comment down below what your memories are of Bradley Wiggins, and feel free to subscribe to the channel for more cycling videos. That's all from us today. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you around.